And I'm Rebecca.
And welcome to our podcast, Building with BuildHer. Today we are talking about happy, healthy home and what that means, and giving you some tips about how you can achieve a happy, healthy home for yourself.
I'm tongue twisted.
Happy, healthy home. Whether you are extending and renovating, or whether you are building new, whether you're already in the process or whether you're thinking about it, we hope that these are some really great guides and tips that will help you get the home that you want.
Now, when you're looking at, I guess, sustainability, when we're looking at a house, we're talking about toxins, we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about passive design, passive heating, cooling, water or energy use, any resource use. And there are going to be people that sit on all levels of the spectrum. So there are people in the passive house that are off-grid and not using any resources and have a very sustainable life. And then there are other people on the other side of that. And most of us will sit somewhere in between. So we're balancing our lifestyle, sustainability, and cost as well as we go along. But the best way to actually understand where to fit and how that goes is to understand what the parameters are from the outside, and how we then work within it to get the outcome that's important to us. Because all our different lives and way we live is going to be, based on what's important to me is different to what's important to you. So for me, it's really important to have low toxins because I'm quite reactive to toxins. But for you, it might be really important to not have gas because you can see the way of the future.
Absolutely, and I think these are all really derived. They're so personal, aren't they? The thing to understand is where you sit on the scale, and whether you want to go down the road of certifying or being in a system that is highly certified and regulated for example, passive house, or whether you're happy to sit within what's dictated by the building code, which is still has some sustainable principles, but it's not necessarily best practice, but it meets requirements, and it's almost a minimum practice that everyone has to adhere to. So let's take a step back. In the scenario that you might be demolishing a home or even renovating a home, what would be some key existing conditions that you want to know about? And the first one that comes up a lot that people don't think about is lead paint. Lead paint will often be buried beneath many, many layers of new paint and can be hard to find, and often it's not found until it's a little bit too late and demolition has started.
Another one that we know about quite a lot is asbestos, and we're on the lookout for it, but it's only after a material has been used and been around for a while, and then unfortunately after a number of people have been impacted and died, or we've worked out that it's unsafe, we'll then start looking for these things in retrospect. So asbestos is another one that we need to be really careful about.
The good thing about asbestos is most qualified asbestos removalists know where to look to find it.
And there's very clear guidelines now, so we know exactly how to get rid of it within safe measures.
Absolutely. The next one is rising damp and mould. Now this one, I was reading a book about this. You actually lent it to me. And I read this chapter on damp and rising mould, and I got super stressed out, and I went through like every room in the house, and I was like looking for mould like a crazy woman.
And the thing is, sometimes you can't see it, so sometimes it's there, and it can really affect your kind of inner guts and workings, and the way you feel and the energy you have. So mold is a really tricky one, but if you have signs of it and presence of it, you really do need to jump on that as quickly as possible, because it can make you really sick.
Absorbed toxins is kind of a new one. Now, there are some building hygienists and specialists out there who can test for absorbed toxins, but this can be as simple as buying a house that has been lived in by a smoker who's smoked in the house for decades, and all those chemicals get absorbed into the carpets and the furniture and the curtains and into the walls, and you really have to clean all that toxins out. So if you think that could be you, you can definitely hire a specialist who will come in and have a look for you and give you a report.
When you're looking at materials, when you're either building new or you're looking in a house, that those toxins can be really they can really affect you. And I guess I was going to give a personal example of one that I built a new home, so I'm aware of toxins. I'm aware of the different chemicals and how they work, and it's really important to me. So we have energy efficiency. We understand how the energy scale works. We've got renewable energy, and we're recycling water and doing all of those things. But the toxin, because of one of the changes, I had steel coated windows, and they were due to be powder coated in a kiln, which is a more stable solution. and craned in. But because they didn't fit in the kiln, they were oversized, they were then painted on site. Now that paint off-gassed. So it actually gave me migraines for about 6 months of living in a house, because did you know that a new house is like a new car? You know that new car smell that you get?
Yeah. Oof.
Right? And so that new car smell, whilst a lot of people actually like it, it's really bad for you. It's kind of like smoking. So we need to be really careful about the products we use, and to specifying both when we're designing a house, but when we're kind of moving into an existing house as well. Some are more stable than others.
Yeah, I think that's a really great example, because these things can happen on site whether you know about them or not, and it's a simple adjustment to a problem that probably comes up 5 out of 10 times.
And I knew about it. I just didn't think, because I was solving one problem, about the other problem I was creating. And then I had those migraines for months, and I was like beside myself. I couldn't work it out. And then I finally, and then the penny dropped. I had a migraine at the time. It wasn't to be, I wasn't thinking clearly.
When you're not feeling well and you can't find the source of that, it's really frustrating.
Yeah. So here are some tips to kind of run through to give you, I guess, an outline of some things to think about. It's not definitive by any means, but here's a few things to think about when designing or refurbishing or renovating your home.
So energy efficiency would be our first one off the rank. This is actually a really easy one to incorporate in your design and build. Things like really efficient lighting, LED lighting, thinking about the amount of lights that you need, thinking about the types of appliances and entertainment things that you might be using that have standby lights on. They can actually contribute to, I think I read something like 8% of your power bill if they're on all the time. Regenerating power, so solar panels, charging or battery backup storage. I remember, about 10 years ago, like battery backup wasn't even a thing, and now you can readily buy a battery backup system to go with your solar panels. Passive heating and cooling. So
that's probably one of the biggest ones, because heating and cooling is one of the biggest uses of energy. So if you're considering that from the beginning, you're making a massive headway into your energy consumption.
And if you can totally avoid having to use a cooling system, then you're already far ahead of the curve. But sometimes in these climates that have really high fluctuations of heat, hot days and cold days, you do need something to kind of balance it out. But a well-designed house that's designed with passive heating and cooling principles will negate some of that.
Yeah, there's even things like solar venting, which means that basically at night you can open up the windows upstairs and you can allow the airflow to passively cool the home and let out that retained heat during the day. But the material selections makes a big deal in this, and I guess working with a designer that understands these principles and cares about them, and it's far more common in the industry now than it ever was, is going to be a headway to that. There's also energy. We've just done that. Water efficiency. We're really thinking about our usage. So a lot of that's appliances. So your washing machine, your dishwashers, your taps, your outlets, kind of the level of water or how much water is coming through, but also building into it grey water, recycling, water tanks for using on the garden. If you put just a little bit of thought into this ahead of time, you can make massive headways to reducing your water bill, but also your impact on the environment.
Absolutely. Our next one is the 3 R's, which I always get them around the wrong way. Reduce, recycle, and reuse.
I really wanted to muck you up. I just wanted to jump in there and give you the wrong one.
Now, you can incorporate all 3 of these to the degree that you want to. You can use recycled materials. You can specify things that have high recycled content. You can reduce the amount of building materials you send to landfill, and you can reuse things like furniture or doors, furniture, hardware, those sorts of things that have a long lifespan can be reused.
So again, a little bit of thought on materials, how you're using them. You can get recycled content in concrete. You can get recycled concrete in the composite materials, all of these different things into it. Landscaping and I guess waste is another one. So permeability of the site, which is now mandated by the planning department, but you really want to think about how much water can actually seep into the ground, what green spaces you've got, because that's going to improve the way you feel when you live in a space. And well, there's so many different shading on materials. You can look at green or, green walls or living walls to reduce shading on a wall. There's actually so many, there's so many benefits for like green roofs and cooling. So incorporating landscaping in creative ways, even in small spaces. I'm in quite a small space, but the landscaping makes a massive impact for me here.
You might want to think about waste. So how you live in your home, how you treat waste. So do you recycle? Do you try and reduce how much waste you're bringing into the home? Another interesting one or concept that's becoming very popular, I think, is having your own veggie garden and growing your own food in your own home on your own land, and reducing being part of that bigger problem, I suppose, reducing the amount of packaging that we are creating and then sending to landfill. And the last
worms. We all need worms.
You've got worm juice.
I do. I have worms. So we use a composting system, and I use the worm pea for my plants, and my plants are very happy for it.
I was landscaping at the weekend and the biggest worm came up. Oh my God.
So cute. I love worms.
The last one is furnishing and living. So furnishing and living, that's you in your home for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So thinking about how all these principles feed into your furnishing and living in your home. And that's as simple as, having short showers or turning lights off, having systems where lights get turned off in rooms that aren't in use, or just remembering to switch off is a big one. Mm-hmm. Using recycled or repurposing furniture.
Or thinking about those decisions with, really thinking about those decisions, because we are in a very disposable environment at the moment, and it's almost like, if you don't like something, you can just replace it really quickly. So buying sometimes some better pieces and pairing them in, or pieces that have greater longevity, can be important as well. Now, all of these things are going to sit with in some way with you in terms of budget, in terms of, what you see as a key benefit, or your cycle on kind of your build journey and what's important to you and your family and your values. But if you have an understanding of it, it's a really dense topic, and it's really exciting, and there's so much in it, and there's so much you can do. And I'm sure you find it really exciting too. But
and if you want to know more, download our Happy Healthy Homes Guide. It's on our resource section in our website, and you'll find it wherever you need to find.